Hello, everybody. My name is Tal Bremen, and I am the marketing manager at Sport Adventure. I just arrived to the Philippines yesterday, but I spent 2.5 weeks in South Korea, in a few different cities, and I wanted to tell you guys what my experience was being a digital nomad in South Korea. So first, we'll start with where I visited and where I think you should visit if you're going to visit South Korea. Of course, Seoul. Seoul is the capital, the biggest city, and the pretty much where everybody's trip takes them at some point. I also went to Busan. That's where I arrived, actually. It's a city that really, really impressed me. And then I went to Jeonju. It's Jeonju. That's a super beautiful little cute town that has a lot of ancient Korean architecture and a lot of history. And it's just a really nice place to go to get that Asian feeling. So I'm going to talk to you about those three places. Another place that I didn't get to visit is Jeju, which is Jeju Island. That's a really cool place that if you're going to go to South Korea, I definitely recommend you check it out. But unfortunately, my trip hasn't taken me there. So when it comes to being a digital nomad, the things that I care about are mostly infrastructure and internet speeds, the cost of living, and the kind of vibe that you can expect in a place. So we can start with the vibe. I arrived to Busan and I really, really loved Busan. Busan is one of those cities that really impressed me just with the infrastructure there, how many things are publicly available, like hiking trails and public toilets everywhere and really good. There's even a heated seat in some of the bus stops, like crazy futuristic architecture there, mixed with this really nice historic feeling, especially in the place that I stayed in, which is called Nampo. That neighborhood is full of fish markets and really Korean, Japanese looking signs everywhere, like streets with a lot of lights and it just seemed to be like a really nice and comfortable and a mix of modern and old, a mix of beautiful nature and high density urban living. So what I mean about that is that there's buildings everywhere. It's very, very tightly packed and dense. However, there are mountains and beaches and hills with parks on top of the hills with amazing views all scattered all throughout the city. So no matter where you are, you're near some sort of a hill with a park, and nature is really easy to come by. So I really liked Busan. There's another area called Hongdae, I believe, that is a bit more modern. I didn't really like that area. I think most tourists would most likely stay there because it seems like it's the most international. It has a lot of the hotel chains, sorry, and it does seem like a nice place to visit, but in my opinion, it didn't seem that different than other modern big cities. It didn't have that Korean charm that, for example, my area, Nampo did. Um, Another place I went to is Seoul, of course, and now Seoul has a lot of neighborhoods that a lot of travelers visit, but I think the main one that tourists and nomads go to, and the one I stayed in is called Itaewon. So Itaewon was quite nice to stay. It was very comfortable. To be honest, it didn't impress me too much because it didn't have that foreign feeling. I didn't feel like I was in Asia, so far away from my home in Canada. It felt like I was in Brooklyn. So there was a lot of hip and cool places, like hipster kind of things. There's a lot of places you can get secondhand clothing, a lot of international food from all over the world, Middle Eastern, even Uzbeki food, Russian food, all sorts of Asian. There's a street just of Vietnamese restaurants, for example. So it's very international. And what's good about that area is that it's really easy to meet people. There's a lot of long-term expats and especially English teachers living there. And also, it's a nightlife hub. So, especially if you go there on a Friday or Saturday night, it's going to be packed with people, just like thousands and thousands of people partying the night away. So, that's really fun and really cool. Another area that people usually go to in Seoul is Hongdae. I hope I'm pronouncing these right, which is near a university, full of vegan food. There's some historic buildings there, so it feels a little bit more Korean and quite a bit more culturally interesting in my opinion. Another area that people like to stay in is Gangnam. I mean, it was mostly made famous by the song Gangnam Style, at least for international people. What that means is basically under the river or below the river, I guess. So it's pretty much quite a large area. It's very modern. Um, I can't really say much about it because when I visited, it seemed quite modern and hard to navigate because it's just such a large area. I walked around and it's interesting, but it's nothing special in my opinion. And the last place that I want to mention is called Myeongdong. So that place, it's Myeongdong. I'm not sure, but I'll write it down in the description. That place was quite a bit more um kind of like capitalist Korea, I would say. A lot of signs everywhere, full of lights, a lot of street food. Like whole streets are just filled with stalls there. And what I like is that you feel like you're in the capital of a Asian country when you're there in Myeongdong. There's so many people, so many signs and shops, and it's just like it's organized chaos all in one area. I wouldn't stay there, but I'd definitely go and visit it, maybe eat some street food there. So I think one of my favorite things about being a digital nomad in Korea is just the infrastructure and the internet there as well. So everything is super, super high speed. You go to most cafes, connect to their Wi-Fi, speeds are really fast. Also, there's free Wi-Fi in the buses all over the country. And also walking in the streets, they have so many routers just on the streets that are free you can connect to. There isn't a password. Sometimes there isn't even anything you need to log in. It's just an open network, and you get speeds of up to like 600 to 800 megabits per second down. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And coming from Southeast Asia, I was in Indonesia before going to Korea. Before that, I was in Thailand and Vietnam. What I love about Korea is how walkable it is. So eh, there's a lot of pedestrianized paths. There's a lot of actual sidewalks that are parallel to all the roads, which might seem normal in Europe and North America, but in Southeast Asia, you really can't expect to have sidewalks everywhere. So I really like that. One thing to notice, the cost of living is quite a bit higher in South Korea than it is in other places that I've been traveling to, which is mostly Southeast Asia. So if you go to a restaurant, a meal can easily cost up to 15 US dollars per meal, not including drinks or anything like that. You could find some meals for $10. You can find street food for maybe $6, but uh, yeah, it's not as cheap as Southeast Asia is, and it could get really expensive really quickly. Hotels are, I think, on the lower end of the scale, 30 to $50 per night for like the cheapest rooms in most of these cities. Um, you could maybe find something cheaper and stay in a hostel, or you could get something significantly more expensive if you want some comfort. But I would say that's the range of most of my bookings, 30 to $50 a night. And according to Nimbio, a one bedroom apartment is approximately $800. It's 780 something per month for a one bedroom rental in the city center. So it's not cheap. I think it's definitely cheaper than the United States and some countries in Western Europe, but it's also more similar to those prices than it is to the prices in Thailand or Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, et cetera, et cetera. So all in all, I would say that South Korea was definitely worth a visit. I really enjoyed my time there. I found it a very nice and refreshing change after spending so much time in Southeast Asia. Now, I don't think I would make it one of my permanent bases. I think it's lacking some of the chaos that I like of Southeast Asia. It's also not very affordable, um, compared to Southeast Asia as well. And I enjoyed it for a trip, but if you do have to go there, or if you want to network with people, for example, because it's a big digital nomad destination, it has a lot of modern infrastructure, it has a thriving tech scene. So I think if you want to network with the tech scene in South Korea, that could be really good. If you end up going there, then hopefully this guide helped you. Well, thank you so much for listening. Good night, guys. Bye.